Hey guys, welcome on another episode of Appetite for Collectibles, this lovely segment that I like to call Hey, I Was in Star Wars. Now, today we have the lovely guest all the way from the UK, DEE TAILS. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, I was in Star Wars. What's
I know
up? How
it's like
you doing?
the dumbest title I could have ever made, but I was like, it sounds cute and cheesy at the same time.
I love it. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. I've been, I know that we've been talking longer than this, but this has been a lot of fun just chit chatting. But yeah, I'm excited that we're finally doing this. It's been fun, like, just chit chatting away. But so where exactly in London are you?
I'm in Northwest London.
Okay.
If that's like still, it's like I don't know. Think about if you know Wembley Arena or Wembley Stadium. I'm like
Yes.
10 minutes drive from there, but it's in a place called Harrow. Um,
Okay.
it's 30 minutes by tube, like 30 minutes from tube from the center of London. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty central.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's been one of my bucket lists to go to London. I just have a feeling like if I go, I would have to go for a month because there's just different areas that I would love to check out. And I'm also afraid that I would love it so much that I would probably never come back to the United States.
I doubt that very much, right? Because I've been thinking about this recently, right? And I've come to understand that the only people that come to the UK for a holiday are people who are sick and tired of blue skies, sunny weather, and affordable prices.
Okay.
I don't know why anybody would want to come here.
So wait, is it like very gloomy in London?
Yeah, we've currently had about maybe since the beginning of summer, we've had maybe uh, 2 weeks worth of sunshine this past week. Like the week that we've had London Film and Comic Con that Chris Bartlett was at, it rained for the entire week, like heavy rain.
Oh, so it's like Florida, basically.
Yeah, but this is kind of all year round, man. You
Okay.
know, it's like as soon as we get to autumn, it's just like, oh, you can guarantee autumn's coming. Just flip that switch and it's the autumn, yeah. Summer, it's just like summer's just like just somebody open a curtain every now and again. It's like, nah, too sunny, nah, too sunny. But we get the occasional heat wave.
So
I think.
you were born in London.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what is your family's, I guess, like background, nationality?
My family, South American, Guyanese, and
Oh,
we have
wow.
trace of Amerindian in our blood.
Have you
So
done like a 23andMe yet?
no, last time the last time I was over there, I was about 5 years old.
Okay.
You know, and I didn't really know what was going on, too much. But I don't know. It's like if I went there now, they wouldn't recognize or know who the hell I am because we don't really stay in touch. We don't really stay in touch. And I've got family in Guyana. I've got family in Trinidad. I've got family in New York. But yeah, that's about it. Don't really see too many. It's because it's just me and my mom. It's just me and my mom. We haven't got many people around us, but it's always been us two together. Just like we'll get there.
Okay. That's like me and my mom. It's been me and her for a long time.
Oh,
Yeah, it's my mom's my bestie.
yeah, and you just want. For me, it's just like always want to be around and available to help out whenever we can or whenever I
Yeah.
can. So it's a good homeostasis, vibe that we got going on, and also keeps me quite grounded in terms of my focus and my attention. I remember once, years and years ago, I said to my mom, maybe I should move out. Maybe I should move. And she says, why? I said, because everybody else is kind of moving out of home at this age and whatever. And she says, no, as long as I can see you trying every single day. And that just kind of broke me. I was just like, okay, but
Aw. She sounds like she's a really nice lady.
yes, she is. Well,
You should
all mums
all
are,
moms
right?
are. You should bring her with her one day to a con.
You wouldn't have a clue what's going on. Wouldn't have a clue what's
She'll be like, "Why are all these people in the line?"
shouldn't I be dressed up?
So I know that you had a successful music career. What was that like?
Ah, yes, back in the 90s. That was phenomenal. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, I grew up wanting to be an actor. I was just blown away by Eddie Murphy. I just thought Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy, and to be honest, I was surprised that my mum allowed me to kind of pursue that, because the first thing that I brought home to watch was Delirious.
Oh
And
gosh.
my best friend is a white guy, right? It was a white guy at the time, and I'd watched it around his house, and it was fine. So just like in this comedy sketch, it was fine. Brought it around my house, and fortunately, my mom thought it was hilarious, And then we got Beverly Hills Cop and all kinds of stuff, and I kind of just wanted to move in that vein. And I realized that to do that, I was going to need an equity card, and that's like your SAG card.
Okay.
And to get that, I was going to need contracts. But to get the contracts, you needed an equity card. And I was like, oh, how am I going to get around this? And then I found out that if you dance for people, you can get around that. All right. So I was like, I became a dancer, and I was dancing for the late Gwen Guthrie, who sang "Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rain."
Okay. I know that song.
Yeah, yeah. All that, and I was in that vein and in that vibe, and I ended up working at Wembley Arena and Wembley Stadium, and so I got to see all these artists. I saw Prince, I saw Janet Jackson, I saw Prince 9 times.
Oh, so I never had the luxury of seeing Prince, but my aunt is a diehard Prince fanatic, and she went to every concert that he was ever in the States. Like, as far as from like Florida, Georgia, or South Carolina, if he was there, she went. And I remember one year I think I was like 17 or 18 years old. She went to Las Vegas to go see him perform.
Right. Oh, yeah, when he had residency.
Yes, and she used to tell me all the time, she's like the greatest performer of all time. She goes, besides Michael Jackson. She was like one of the greatest performers to see live.
Yeah. I mean, before then, I kind of dug Prince. I thought he was cool and everything like that. But you saw more from Michael Jackson, and this was during his nude tour. So it was kind of on the back of Batman during that period of time, and literally blew my mind every single night. Just the mastery this man has, just it was just, man, I'm down with your aunt, man. Me and your aunt.
I know, she even has like a Prince symbol tattooed on her, and she has like the Purple Rain movie poster in her living room still. She loves Prince.
Yeah, I got a few things. But on my bucket list, I want to go to Minneapolis. I want to make that trip. That would be like my little bit of homage that I really need to do. But during that period of time, I was being inspired by all these dance acts, and Bobby Brown. Remember Bobby Brown? So I was seeing all these things, and my dance style was very much West Coast, while in the UK, I wouldn't even say it was East Coast. In the UK, it was much more refined. And so the guys that you see dancing for Snap, I got the power and all that stuff or whatever, and had their red shoes and those shirts. That was the vibe, and there was no room for someone who danced like Hammer or Bobby Brown. And so when Gwen Guthrie came over, I got on that train. I then got an audition for MC Hammer, and I flew out to Oakland, California for that, and was supposed to join him. They said, "Oh, he's coming to the UK next year for his world tour, which would have been too legit to quit, and we'll possibly try and pick you up on the way, right? Or maybe just pop up on stage and say this is a guest, or he's one of your locals, or something like that." And that year he went bankrupt. That same year, at the end of that year, I met the MPG outside one of the venues in Olympia. I wasn't even going to the concert. I couldn't even get into the concert, but my mate said, "Oh, come, they normally hang out at the back." So I'm like, okay. And so I'm meeting these guys and they're like, "Oh man, is that, yeah, keep in touch. We'll be passing back next year." Next year came, Prince changed the lineup, didn't he? And he did the stadium, and he didn't come with the MPG as it was back then. And so that was the same year. I'd gotten together with 3 other guys, and we said we're going to be a group. And yeah, it was going to be a cross between New Edition, yeah,
Great.
and Jodeci. Right, so we wanted to be able to have the dance moves as well as being able to have the vocal ranges. Now, the 3 guys in the band were stronger vocalists than me, so obviously I had to get singing lessons, and all I wanted to do was do the backing vocals and have them really strong so that we could do acapellas while being able to facilitate the raps. And then that turned into doing the choreography, and then that turned into doing the styling for the band. And so we had a whole concept going on. And then Tommy Mottola told Sony to outbid everybody for us because he didn't have a Black New Kids on the Block. Now, understand this, right? We're modeling ourselves on New Edition and Jodeci. Tommy Mottola signed New Edition. Tommy Mottola signed New Kids on the Block, and Tommy Mottola had us signed. So it was like that, you know? And so with the styling and the choreography I was pouring into that, it was already US inspired. It wasn't like the bands that were doing anything here. There weren't any R&B bands performing the way we were performing or singing the way we were performing back then. So we were actually setting the bar at the same time. And then out of the blue, you know, Janet Jackson comes along and she's looking for a few bands to open up her Janet tour. And she sees us and she says, "That's the only band that I want."
That's so cool.
So we put together a 20-minute set, and thankfully, I had seen, look, I'm getting goosebumps now. I'd seen Prince, and on his new tour, he performed Party Man. And at the beginning of Party Man, he had the Game Boys at the time doing this. They did this walk. It was like, what? It was like step, 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 step. Oh, hell, Party Man, right? And so I was like, we could have that at the beginning of our set. And so we were stood there and the lights came on one at a time. Then we did the steps and then we broke down into one of our tracks, you know, and, you know, it was just so fitting for a Janet tour to have a band like us performing like that. Everything was just all in place, and along came the Bad Boys movie. And then we end up on the soundtrack to the Bad Boys movie. We get invited to Donnie Einer's concert party he was having on his lawn, which had so many acres with a golf course and a basketball course and court or whatever. And obviously we stole a golf cart and we're kind of crazy one of those things. But and we were on the cover of Black Beat magazine and Ride On magazine, you know.
Yeah, I know that.
Things that kind of were all what we were into. There was nothing in the UK we could be into, you know. Everything was on import, and we kind of facilitated that whole gap in the market as that band, you know. And yeah, and it ran its course, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful for what it was. But I never stopped wanting to be an actor. I think a French fan sent me some footage of an interview that we gave a while back, and was talking and says, "Oh, and details, you wanted to be an actor, right?" And I don't even remember saying this, but it's recorded me saying that. Yeah.
Quand j'étais jeune, la seule chose dont j'étais sûr, c'est que je voulais faire du cinéma, jouer dans des films comme La Guerre des Étoiles, travailler avec George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, tourner dans des films d'action.
Yeah, I want to be in something like Star Wars and work with George Lucas and blah 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 blah. And when I sent that, it took me about 2 weeks kind of just to get over it, because it was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I didn't even know I said that publicly. I didn't even know I ever said that. And it was just, yeah, it was really moving. It was one of those heavy moments. And yeah, I went from wanting to be like before Star Wars, I was in a comedy called Take. And I love comedies, and it's a romantic comedy. It's an independent movie, and it did really, really well. It's on Amazon Prime, I think. I think it's still on Amazon Prime.
I'll try to find it tonight.
Yeah, called Take. And after that, I went straight into The Force Awakens. You know, and that was I've got a lot to be grateful for, you know.
I'll be honest with you. When I saw your background with Star Wars, very impressive, because you were at the cusp of like when movies were just coming out back to back. So it was like, you know, you had The Force Awakens, you were in Rogue One, which was a very highly successful Star Wars film. You know, you were in Solo, which I thought that was phenomenal as well too. The Last Jedi, even though a lot of people did not like the film, I personally love the film for its cinematography.
Yeah,
it was a very beautiful film to look at.
Yes.
There's certain things about the film I didn't like, but I still overall got Star Wars. So I still liked it. But, you know, like I said, your background back to back with all these movies it was just crazy.
Just, yeah. I think that's the only word you can use for it, is absolutely crazy. Because before The Force Awakens came out, I got hired for a job for ITV, right? Over here. And it was for a show called Jekyll and Hyde. And I got to play a creature called the Harbinger, where it was just my head. And it was painted as if it had like scabies or something like that. Like you know, when dogs have really bad skin and they need that medication, it was like that. And then from the neck down, I was a dog, right? Created by DNEG, right? And there's a guy called Hayden Jones who did that. And at the time, I know he was doing a lot of stuff for Marvel, and he now works with Lucasfilm and was involved in Ultraman and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're still in touch, and I'm just like, of course you had to go there, right? And so that was my first terrestrial TV show, where I had about 4 episodes as a reoccurring character. And that was, yeah, all before The Force Awakens came out. And then Force Awakens came out. But the whole thing, I grew up watching Sesame Street.
Oh my God, so did I.
Yeah, before it was taken over and dismantled for parts, and what it was doing for the world wasn't even replaced. It was just left, right? Yeah. So we're among that fortunate few. Yeah, I even own the box sets. I have to own the box.
I still have all the VHS tapes.
Yes.
My mother was the type, and this is one thing that I've always said that I love about my mom, and it's gonna be one memory, you know, because I know in life our parents, you know, they pass on, and it's gonna be one memory of my mother that I'm always gonna be very grateful for. But my mother always bought me every VHS tape to every TV show that I ever watched as a child, every Disney movie. And she was cute because she would write my name on there in the inside cover, and it says like, this movie belongs to, and it would have my whole name, so nobody would take it. And I remember recently I went back home and I, you know, went back to memory lane and looked, and she still has all the damn VHS tapes.
And you have a VHS player, right? You still have a VHS.
I still have a VHS player.
Good.
And she said to me, she was like, you know, you can get rid of these if you want. She's like, I'm not, you know, I won't hold it against you. And I was like, I'm never selling these.
No.
But I still have Sesame Street still in VHS form.
But you see, it's not just the beauty of what Jim Henson gave us. It's what our parents allowed us to sit and watch. and
Mhm.
sat down and watched with us, you know. And like, if I mention Kermit to my mom, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
one of those things. And then it was like in the evenings, it was the Muppet Show, and realizing that, oh, it's only Kermit that transfers from that show to this show or whatever, right? And then on the weekends, we had a show called Behind the Scenes, and it would show all the behind the scenes making of these movies. Now, I was still at that age where I didn't understand what that was. I watch like the Streets of San Francisco or Kojak or Starsky and Hutch or something, right? And I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, I'm not realizing there's a cameraman sitting there filming that, and there's a guy holding the mic doing that. I'm not aware of any of those things. But then there was this period where they started showing the making of Star Wars movies, right? Now, I was I was too young, or wasn't at that age where my mom would take me to see these things at the cinema. And so I kind of lived through them vicariously with the stickers and the cards, because that's what was popular at school. And on the way to school, you stop off and you buy your bubble gum just for the cards or whatever and stuff like that. And you're collecting all these things. Like, I even have Superman cards from Christopher Reeves. Oh my God, in the attic, right?
Oh, wow.
And yeah, you go through all this premise of what you think the show's about. Like one of the cards that just always blew my mind was Han and Chewie, Leia, Luke, and 3PO in the cockpit. And I'm just
yes.
like,
is it the Topps cards?
Yes.
Okay, I own that set.
Oh my goodness. Just staring at that image, not knowing what it was about, you know, and I know they're flying in something in space, but just looking at it. The thing about being a child, when you see adults doing these things, it adds validation to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you watch the Clash of the Titans and you're seeing a guy fighting with a stop motion creature or skeletons, right? But he's putting everything into that, so you want to be with him and you want to buy that, right? With watching the behind the scenes to these Star Wars things, I got to see people half in their costumes, half out of their costumes in Endor, like the stormtroopers with their helmets off, or Ewoks without their heads on and stuff like that, and people milling around and talking about what they're filming. I've got a clue what they're doing because I ain't seen the show, right? But I'm like, whoa. But it wasn't until I saw them filming in is it Dagobah?
Yeah, in Dagobah.
Yeah, and Kermit was there, and Miss Piggy was there, and Frank Oz was there, and then, oh my goodness, Jim Henson was there, right? Now, I look, I couldn't say that I'm like a big Star Wars fan in terms of Sesame Street and all that, but as a kid, you know who Jim Henson is.
Yes.
Yeah, you know and you know who Frank Oz is. You know. Right?
I will die if I ever meet Frank Oz. That's my like puppeteer. Yeah.
Oh, you know, I'm with you 100%, 100%. And as soon as I saw those characters on the screen as they're starting to develop Yoda and things like that, I'm like, now I'm interested. I'm interested in Star Wars. It was something to look at, and you know, cards or stickers. Didn't know it was a movie. I'll wait till it comes on TV or something, right? Didn't know much about it at all. But soon as I saw Kermit and Miss Piggy, that's when I had a vested interest in wanting to see this. And it was still a good few years after that I was going to be able to do that, because we didn't go to the cinema. I had to wait till it came on VHS. And by that point, I think I had most of the important characters. Like, I had this big C-3PO and this R2-D2 about this big, and a Boba Fett. I didn't even know who Boba Fett was, but he had a rocket pack on his back, so he could fly like Superman as far as I was concerned, right? Yeah.
You're like, it's a helmet, it's a face covered Superman.
Yeah, with a rocket on his back. How cool is that? And so that's where my love came in, because also I understood the process, because along the way we got a Muppet movies, and I knew when there was a guy in a suit and when there wasn't. And then we had Labyrinth, and then we had all these other things coming along. And I'm understanding Dark Crystal. Oh my goodness, Dark Crystal. And we're seeing all these kind of Muppet machinations or puppeteering machinations coming through. So I'm invested in this world, this make-believe world that's no different from what I would see from a Ray Harryhausen movie or a children's stop motion little cartoon or something like that, because it was all part of that essence of our childhood. And so eventually to be on a set on The Force Awakens and being backstage and seeing people half in their costumes and half out of their costumes, and meeting Kieran Shah, because I'm a big Harry Potter fan too, so I was slaying that and Lord of the Rings, right? So before that, because I'll tell you in a bit, because I've written 2 books, but I needed the inspiration while I was writing these 2 books of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, right? So so when Lord of the Rings finished, I'd put on Harry Potter, right? And I'd see a tiny little Frodo, then I'd see the big Frodo. I'm like, okay, right. And I knew that was Kieran. I never met him, but I knew that was Kieran. And the next thing you know, I'm backstage and I'm sat there and I'm putting on my costume and I'm seeing someone dressed in Kieran Shah. I'm like, dude, I've been watching you on TV. and I can't remember who was dressing him, and they said, see, people know. And ever since then, Kieran and I have been like this. You know,
that must have made his day.
Oh, it made my day. He's just, I love him to bits. You know, we'll sit there and he'll drop these pearls of wisdom every now and again, and I'm just like, whoa. You know, and I'm just letting it sink in. Because I'll find out that he was in Superman. I'll find out he worked with Marlon Brando. I'm like, what? And you're talking to me, okay, right? So it's just that environment that I was in that was just so submersive on The Force Awakens, and the atmosphere was I wouldn't say it was electric. It was so energetic. You know?
I feel like that whole entire era around when The Force Awakens came out, I think the energy was very energetic because it was a Star Wars movie based off of, you know, all the old characters. So I think a lot of people were very excited to be on this film, especially because it had been years since any of these characters have been brought up. So it's like we're getting a Mark Hamill being talked about. We're getting, you know, Princess Leia talking about Han Solo, Chewbacca's coming back.
Yes.
You know, so I think anybody who was a part of it, as much as everybody likes to bash, you know, the sequels or the prequels, you know, just being a part of Star Wars, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, you are 100%, because I then found myself in a scene and taking notes from J.J. Abrams.
And that has to be phenomenal, because I think he's an amazing director.
He is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And then he's saying to me, we're going to need you to do your, because I was working with Tom Bell. So it's me and Tom Bell in these suits where we're kind of like swindlers, because we're almost like twins. But he would always set me off laughing because I had a laughing face. And so JJ said, okay, we're gonna cheat the shot. So when Han comes in, you're gonna look over your shoulder. So I look over my shoulder, and Harrison Ford is stood there. And he gives me that wry smile, and I've got the mask on, and I'm thinking,
my God.
Right? And every ounce in your body is saying, keep cool. Just do what you would professionally do. Just give it what you would give Jim Henson. And from that perspective, anytime I had that head on, it was hard for anybody to look at that head and not laugh. So it was easy to play that, and in between takes keep the energy alive and the what do you call it? The um, just to keep the morale up,
Yeah.
you know, as well as the spontaneous little things that would happen, like improv. That was the word, you know. So extras would come by and we'd improv. Some of the other creature guys would walk by and we'd improv, playing this game, and we'd be laughing and entertaining and whatever. But that whole process led to JJ saying, "I've never met anybody as consistent as you before in my life," and I was choked, because as far as I'm concerned, that's what's required. You know,
Yeah.
you don't come to a set just to work and stop and then go or whatever. Especially in the suits that we're in, and especially in a characterized suit.
I think, and this is just me giving my opinion, because you know, I wasn't there and got to experience what you experienced, but I feel like as people who are fans of the lore, if you're able to be, you know, or if you're fortunate enough to be in something where you are part of a Star Wars film, I think the inner geek in you kind of
Yeah.
like comes out, and you kind of push it to the side and tell it like, hey, you need to calm down, and we need to act like more of a professional. And I feel like, you know, for me, for instance, if that was me, I wouldn't be able to compose myself. I had, you know, like, you know, friends of mine know this. Like, I met Mark Hamill, and I could not, like, as soon as I walked away from him, I was hysterically crying. But in front of him, I kept it together, like how we're talking.
That's
But
it.
then, yeah, but then, like, as soon as I walked away, I literally called, you know, my boyfriend, and was crying like a child. So it's like, if that were me and I was at a movie set and I, you know, had a, you know, whatever type of role I had, and if any of them, like especially Harrison Ford, comes around the corner, I would have been just like you, but deep down inside, you know, in my brain, I would have been like, holy crap, it's it's Han Solo. It's Indiana Jones.
Every single time.
Every character that he's ever played.
Every single time I've met somebody, it's that. Every single time.
And I think that that's what a lot of directors or anybody who's in casting, I think they value that a lot, because you know, you are still a fan, but you're keeping your, you know, you're keeping your shit together.
Well, here's the other thing, is that what I've noticed is that those people that know Star Wars, listen, we don't get much direction. Yeah, it might surprise you. We don't get much direction. Like, we'll put on a suit while we're having the fitting. That might be the only time we're getting to stand in front of a mirror to see what we look like. Right. And so when that happens, you kind of adopt how you want to do the walk, or how the character's supposed to be, or whatever. And you imprint that, so that when you go home, you're remembering what you look like, but you're trying to remember how that character's going to walk and talk and move and gesture and certain things. And when we come to the set, you know, for example, with Rogue One, that droid L1 was supposed to be K2SO. And so I was being fitted for that for about 4 months, until it went through a design change. And remember what I said? I think I said this off camera when I was talking about Ahmed Best and seeing the behind the scenes for the prequels. You know, I wasn't even involved in CFX at the time, even though I'd done costume work for children's shows and things like that. I thought to myself, well, would you do that? I said, well, look, I'd rather do that and be in the mix than not be in the mix. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened in Rogue One, where the character is being made to be K2SO, and then it went for a design change, and then Alan Tudyk got to do it, and that I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, there's no way I was ever going to compete with that, right? And he's a legend, right? So I'm like, okay. And I hadn't seen what they were going to do at the time, but I knew it was a complete design change. And with that droid, there was this thing where we were in Jeddah, And there's two things that I'll always mention, which is I met the little kids that were there, and I stayed in character. I was talking to like a droid. I was talking to them like that, right? And it kind of vibrated through the suit, right, through the mouthpiece, right? And so I remember Ivy Wong and the rest of the gang started to improv with me, and Ivy was strict with them and said, "No, you stay in character." Right? I was like, "Oh, bless her," right? And so yeah, I was interacting with them, and at some point they went away for a break, and then came back. And as they were coming back, their carer said, "Oh, look, go and play with your friend the droid." And they came running over and bounding, and I stood there doing this. Oh my god, I'm so excited, right? And I didn't know I was being filmed, and that's what ended up in the movie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that just that clip alone means so much more to me than anything else.
Because it wasn't scripted. It was something that you were honestly doing because of you just having fun playing with the kids.
Yeah. Genuinely, and there was a moment where they wanted some other footage. I'm not sure. I think some footage ended up on the video footage for the space tours or something like that in the States. So I'd heard, I hadn't seen it, but there was a clip of me doing something or looking into the camera. But when I was there, because it was guerrilla filming, and they didn't know what they were going to keep and what they weren't going to keep, there was a moment where they put me up onto one side, and there was like a maybe what you call it, a water vaping machine. When they say action, instantly I work out, well, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I lock it in like muscle memory. And so when they say cut and they say do it again or whatever, I repeat exactly the same thing. But then I get to this power converter thing or whatever, and then I remember giving it a kick, right? giving it a kick, only because I remember C-3PO kicking R2-D2, right? So I remember doing stuff like that. But there's things like that you just instinctively do, because you know it's part of that universe. If I'm in a droid suit, I know that I can't move too far out of the range from where Anthony Daniels has set that.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's a completely different looking droid altogether. And the same thing with some of these creatures. You know, you put on the suit and they'll say, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that or whatever over there. You know, okay, you go over there and you do it, and you don't get any notes, so you're thinking, oh, I'm doing it right, and that's the case. And then sometimes you'll see other people needing to be told certain direction, given these things to do and that thing to do. But it is, like you said, it's a very geek-centric style of work.
It is, but that's the awesome thing about this, is that you're a geek at heart. So it's like these little things, they make you happy, as opposed to like having, an actor who doesn't really know much about the lore, or doesn't have, somewhat of a passion for it. And they're very stiff. I would rather have somebody who is going to geek out about everything that's happening, and you can see their pure enjoyment out of it. So, and I know for a fact, like, we were talking about that interaction that you had with the kids, and that was one segment that was being filmed. That's probably going to go hands down to those children later on when they grow up. They're going to be like, hey, I had this awesome experience with DEE TAILS, and it was filmed in Star Wars. And, I'm never going to forget that memory ever. And they're always going to be thankful for you for that.
That's the gift. That's the intentional gift every single time. So even with Kratinus in Maz's castle, entertaining the crew, that was absolutely intentional, because that's what you expect from a Star Wars production. We were the only ones being laughed at, only ones having that kind of interaction with. you know, and those were 5 long days sat next to a huge fire pit that didn't even feel like 5 days. You know, that's part of that whole essence and that gift. And I see it as a responsibility being in those suits, you know. Like usually if I'm in one of those suits, once I'm in, I'll let the first AD know to tell the director when he's calling me, call me by the character name to the set. You know, because when I turn up, it's very unlikely that I'll need to be pulled out of it at any given time. Yeah. When we put in on various types of suits as well, you work out how you're going to breathe in the suit. Is it an easy suit to breathe in? Is it an easy suit to move in? You know, so you know how to pace yourself, because when you're trying it on, there's a different energy level to when you're on set. You know, and how much breathing you're going to be doing, or how heavy your breathing is going to be because of the excitement or the anxiety or whatever. But every time I'm in one of those suits, I very rarely want to be taken out, especially in between the takes. That can be anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes and stuff like that. It doesn't normally matter, because I will either be working on my movement or a gesture that I want to do or give, or even stuff that I may have to say that may get dubbed and stuff like that. But the people that are around, I want them to have that experience, because also you got to understand, people that design the suits, from the wardrobe to the artists to the molders to the people doing the animatronics, they've never seen the suit, they've never seen the creature come alive.
They just see or you know, they just see the costume in front of them.
Yeah,
they don't see it become real.
Yeah, when it's got an actual person inside it, you know, performing as that character. You know, I'm performing now. but performing as that character, you know, it gives them that magic that they were working towards. You know, I was hoping it was going to look this good. I was hoping it was going to work the way it needed to work, or, oh, it needs more paint here and stuff like that. And, you know, you want to give that. And that's just to the people around the costume and the character. And then you step on set and then you give that to who you're performing with. You know, I didn't mention, but I did do, how many years? About 3 or 4 years studying performing arts.
Oh, wow.
At college. And that was after the high school drama classes and stuff like that. But at college, I learned a lot about physical movement. I learned a lot about how would I describe it? Inventive, being able to create your own movement based on your breathing techniques. Now, I was doing performing arts thinking, man, it's gonna be like Fame. I'm like, man, I'll be like Leroy. I'm gonna be doing tap dancing. I'm gonna be doing this, and I get there, and it's contemporary dance. I'm like, contemporary who? Contemporary what? I'm not wearing tights. I didn't have to. I wore the baggy stuff. I'm just saying, I wore the baggy stuff, right? But I learned about contraction and release. And the contraction and release in terms of your breathing, or when you're holding a movement, and when you're dropping a movement. When you're going from one movement to another, there's a contraction and release there. But it also has to come from somewhere. It has to come from emotion. And you get a lot of help with a character suit that already kind of has a character of their own, you know, and whether it's something that moves more human or something that moves a bit more stiffer, or, you know, like slow and low is a bit more out there, you know. All of that training comes through, but I'm not thinking about that training because it's kind of already ingrained into that. But that's what's I use to bring these characters to life and make you believe that you're stood in front of a real being, you know, regardless of what suit that I'm in. And that has to transfer across from wardrobe to say how appreciative I am, man, and saying, look, it works, you know. Yeah, to being on set, but it's magical. I absolutely love it.
Now, I know that you were also on The Last Jedi, which I know we spoke earlier, and I said that it wasn't my favorite Star Wars film, but I loved it because of cinematography wise. How is it being on that set as well? Because they probably had, like, you know, reoccurring people come back if possible, right?
Oh, look, I just got goosebumps. I just got goosebumps because there's a moment that you'll relate to. There's a moment I'm going to bring up that you'll relate to.
Oh boy.
With a lot of my characters, I only know the scene that I'm in, so I don't know anything about the scripts whatsoever. So
Okay.
at least when I walk away from some of these movies, whether they're liked or not, I say, had nothing to do with me. Right? I hope it had nothing to do with me. I did my part.
You're like, my character was cool.
Yeah. But with the last, okay, I was on set and they were filming different locations of the casino. I think in the end product we had a long sweeping camera for the casino, but they had different little sections already filmed. There must be so much footage of the cantina that they didn't use. But there was one moment I was stood there, I was looking at the monitor, and I was watching one of the performers with one of these big heads on, having, because he's got a radio in his ear and he can't see, right? So the guy who's operating him is telling him exactly where to go and everything like that. And all the extras that are dressed up and looking dapper in that scene all know to move out of the way of anybody wearing a head just in case they can't.
Yeah, because they don't want to bump into them.
Yeah, right. And so I'm watching him being directed, and he's walking at pace, right? So I'm watching Kevin Coolmore, yeah. And I think he was being and the operator was Mark Jeffress, right? And he's walking at pace, and he's walking there's steps going down, but he's up top. So he's walking, and he stops right at the edge of the steps. And I'm like, whoa. Whoa. I'm like, okay, all right. And they're just rehearsing. And so he's turning 3 o'clock and then walking again to 4 o'clock, all these types of things they've worked out to do. And then I have to try and remember what was said. This voice comes up behind me, you know, and says, oh wow, wow. And I look across, and it's Luke Skywalker. I'm calling him Luke, right? And so I'm stood there, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my goodness. You see that guy there? I'm just like, just talk, tell him something. I said, you see that guy there? He can't see what he's doing or where he's going and all this kind of stuff. And he says to me, he goes, whoa. He goes, yeah, I could do with that sometimes. Someone in my ear telling me what I should be doing or whatever. And so we're having this little chat, and around this monitor, and I'm just being real cool about it. And I can feel my whole body heating up, because I know there are eyes all around, because he was paying a visit to the set, right? Mm-hmm. And so when someone like that is paying a visit to the set, when they're not shooting, everybody knows they're on set.
Yeah.
And he stood there talking to me, and I'm burning up because people are staring. And then he says, okay, I gotta go. I says, yeah, all right, take care, all the best, or whatever. And as he left, I could have collapsed. I could have literally collapsed. Luke Skywalker snuck up on me.
And he talked to me.
Oh my goodness. You know, right?
Oh yeah. Trust me, I know.
But that was epic. That was an epic moment for me. And the other was playing Slow and Low. You know, I don't think he hadn't been named at that point. Mm-hmm. And the head was beautiful. It was being operated by I'm trying to remember the names now. Simon and Ollie. Simon and Ollie, they were operating at times, but I think it was mainly Ollie that was operating. And Neil Scanlon was very hands-on with this suit and with his head and stuff like that. And I remember speaking to Ryan and trying to gauge, because my first impressions of this character was that he was supposed to originally just be on a beach, and he's going with a metal detector and he sees a ship flying over. You know, that classic Star Wars shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just see someone fly over. I thought, oh, I'm going to be that. And then he turned into some kind of posh guy, because he was going to be at this casino. And so the walk was going to have to be different. And then someone said to me, no, maybe I think he's a bit more. I think he's a bit more subdued than that. So I was getting cross references, right? Because there's only you tend to want to lock something in pretty soon so you can play with it.
Yeah.
And so I saw Ryan, and I said to Ryan, yeah, how do you see this guy? Is he like really posh with the rest of them? And he goes, oh no. He's like, whoa, man. He's like, wow. I'm like, got it. Right? Say no more.
hence the name.
Right. So so this character just kind of came to life. And I tell you, when I tell you this was, as far as I'm aware, it was one take. It was one take. We rehearsed him plopping in front of the camera and saying, oh, yeah, those are the shuttle parkers. Yeah. And then they get tased, and I'm like that. Oh, and then that's the take. And so I wasn't aware at the time, but I knew Neil was watching, and most of the crew were watching for this shot. And fortunately, when I was working with the head and these operators, when they're operating the head, when it's just on the shelf or on the mannequin thing, they're kind of moving their faces to how they want the head to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had these rehearsals where it was just improv, wearing the heads and imagining that you were at this soiree and you're having a drink with some people or whatever. And they would have to stand in front of me. Now, if they stood in front of me, if they stood in front of me like that, right, I can see them through one of the nostrils. And so even if I'm looking at someone else, I can see what they're doing. So I'm paying attention to what they're doing with their facial expressions, so that I can emote a little bit. And that's what happened. When the camera was there, and it was stood behind the camera, and we stepped in, we did the rehearsal, fine. And then we said, okay, now go. And I stumbled in, and I said, oh, yeah, those are the shuttle parkers. And then when that reaction was like, oh, like that, those guys on the remote got it so 100%. And I was like that, and I didn't know. I'm just going with what I'm doing, right? And then I stumbled back off, and it's like, okay, that's it. Right. And I remember Neil being extremely impressed, and he said, oh, that D's good, isn't he? Right. But it wasn't that. It was that Jim Henson experience, where it's not just one person. There's so many people that are involved in making that work, that puppetry and that physical movement. And that's one of the most magical things that I came away with on working on that movie. But after that, I said to Ryan, can I do the voice? He says, yeah. Went to LA, and I'm like, I ain't gonna do that voice. Then I heard, oh yeah, it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I'm like, I am not complaining. And the funny thing is, before I even started work on The Last Jedi, I watched a movie called Brick.
Yes.
And I didn't know, and I'm like, this is just amazing. I'm like, awesome. And then they said it was Slow and Low, named after the Beastie Boys.
How funny you wore the shirt. So for anybody who's watching this, so when D and I agreed that we were going to do this interview, I asked D, because he was actually the first one I've ever asked to pick a song when I make the announcement on my Instagram. And D decided to pick Beastie Boys. So I just think it's funny that he's wearing a Beastie Boy shirt. I love Beastie Boys. I have most of their albums on vinyl. And anytime there's this ride on Universal, so there's a theme park here in Florida. It's called Universal Studios.
Right.
They have this one roller coaster. It's called like Rocket, it's like Rocket Roller Coaster. You have headphones. They're not headphones on you, but they're headphones on the side of the chair that gets, strapped on you. And I've been going on that ride now for years. And every time I go on that ride, I pick Intergalactic by Beastie Boys, and I gotta hear it, because as much as I'm completely terrified of heights and going on a roller coaster, as long as I hear that song, it's such an energetic experience that I'm just like, yeah, now don't you tell me to stop. And it's just like, yeah, I get like all amped up. So then by the time I get out of the ride, I'm just like, okay, cool, I survived. And if something bad would have happened, at least I would have went out listening to Beastie Boys.
I mean, one of my best boys, Robbie Glover. I did some tracks with him a while back as well. Robbie Glover. He is like my guru when it comes to Beastie Boys. He is like the Beastie Boys guru. He's like, anything Beastie Boys do, just let me know or whatever. But the second reason is because I'm the only person to have so far I'm the only CFX person to have 2 Beastie Boys name characters, because one's just popped up in the Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
And that was literally based on, they chose this character just because they liked the look of him. Yeah. And they brought me in to wear this suit. And I said, no, you can't put me in that suit with that name. Yeah. The last time I wore a creature like that, it was named after a Beastie Boys song. Paul Casey, he played Ello Nasty in The Force Awakens. You can't be dropping an ordinary name and putting me in a suit like that. And I said, and they were like, oh, okay. So I said, look, you can do that, but I'm just saying the fans might know, right? The least of their worries, right? so they went and checked and came back and said, okay. And then eventually it came back with Senator Chewant, as in, so what you want to what you want.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he'll be making another appearance if he I don't think he's in episode 7, so he must be in episode 8. So he's making another appearance, so you get to see him a little bit better in the next coming Acolyte.
Okay.
Yeah, but see, these wins that I come away with are just
I love that. Beastie Boys and Star Wars mashing up.
All hell Beastie Boys, right?
Oh my gosh. We just need now Beastie Boys to do like another album, and then maybe do like a music video where it's kind of like Star Wars-esque.
No. Just have us in the video. We'll be cool with that. Just have us in the video. Beastie, you watching? We want to be in the video.
I'm gonna tag them when I do the reels and we talk about the Beastie Boys.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Like, I love the fact that like they, as much as they already had the idea of like they were gonna name this character the specific thing, you went in there like super confident and you were like, listen, I played this character similar before. And it had a Beastie Boy name, so we have to keep the momentum.
And they said, what's that about? And I said, hey, that's a nod to J.J. Abrams. That's a J.J. Abrams thing, man. And they did. They went away and did their homework and came back and said, okay. And they didn't have to.
No.
But I felt responsible enough to actually say that, because because we're geeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So I had to say something. I know. And the thing is that I think that suit was originally, I think it was originally going to be worn by Paul Casey, but I think he was busy on Doctor Who. But
Okay.
I doubt very much if Paul would have done that. So yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, they would have kept the name that they originally picked for it.
I think so.
So now, speaking of the Acolyte, how are you? So I know ever since this show came out, it's been, a huge divide. You got fans this way going, yay, and you got fans on this way going, nay. Well, they're probably saying worse, but I was trying to keep it as PG as possible. But how exciting was that to, be a part of something that is new to Star Wars, because we're getting a whole brand new story. It has nothing to do with the whole Skywalker saga. So I feel like, for me, I was very excited when it was announced because, again, I am a Star Wars fan. I like new stuff. And I know the fans have been asking for newer things. And it's nice to see something that is outside of the Skywalker saga, as much as I love that. And it is the reason why it's Star Wars. But just being a part of that must have been very interesting.
Let's put it this way. I appreciate any time they give me a call to do something, because as CFX performers, we don't have a say in anything.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know what the show's normally about or the film's normally about. I think the film that I've enjoyed working on the most was Solo, because I spent so much time on it, working with both sets of directors. With shows like The Acolyte, didn't know anything about it, just coming into, and for me, the only thing that I was excited about was getting to play a hologram. That's the first time I've been a hologram. So I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that's one. I tick that one off.
I'm blue.
Yeah, I tick that one off. I tick that box or whatever. But yeah, it's and I'm in Coruscant, and Coruscant was like one of my favorite places just to watch through the prequels, because I have to tell you, like whenever they're flying into these cities or they're flying over these worlds, I could just watch a whole string of those all tied together, because I'm thinking, wow, I wonder who lives down there. I wonder how far down that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what their civilization is. You see glimpses of it when Obi-Wan and Anakin are going into that club, chasing the assassin.
That was hired by the bounty Jango Fett.
There you go, Django. So yeah, so you see little things like that, and then you see it in more depth when you're watching the Clone Wars. But with these other productions and things like that, I'm grateful to be called in. I have no idea about the script, and I have no idea about the story. None of us do. Any of the CFX guys that go in there, unless they are a main cast, like maybe Jonas might know something, at least he might know who killed him. But if that hasn't been revealed yet, I don't know. But it's I'm grateful every time they call me in. It's like this one came in because Paul Casey wasn't available. The last one that came in was for Willow, and I only got that because John Kasdan called me in for that, so I'm grateful for whenever I'm called in to work, and I will bring what I always bring to the show, and that's 100% of the character, and making sure that that character is giving enough.
Yeah, you put your whole entire all into this.
Yeah, every single character, because it's like, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but if you've got a favorite jacket and you put it on and you know how you're going to strut, that's exactly, it's just like, put me in a Star Wars costume or put me in a creature suit or whatever. I know exactly how to strut, and I don't know what it is about that, but I think it's that fairy tale aspect that I've always been a huge fan of fairy tales are the most poignant, most valuable products for children there is. You know, you learn, it's like you're taken through moral dilemmas that have conclusions, stories that have conclusions, you know. And what do you think the moral of that story was? You know, those types of things where children get to see what happens if you're bad, what happens if you're good, what happens if you help, what happens if you're caring, and what happens if you are into cooperation, like Sesame Street. Yeah, you see those ebbs and flows throughout story. And another thing about children, I could identify with whatever Kermit's going through. I could identify with whatever Miss Piggy's going through. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to be a frog to do it. Yeah, how deep that was. Right? It really doesn't. Kids don't see that.
No.
It's whatever an adult wants to put onto that, and whatever is probably going to be to the detriment of a child. Because all the child wants to know is what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong, and wants to see that played out. You know, I know kids go and watch Little Mermaid, whether they're boys or not, and they're not saying, "Oh, well, I want to be a mermaid. I want to have red hair." It doesn't matter. There's a learning curve. It's a fairy tale. That's the deal. That's what I love. I love the portrayal of those moral values. You know, and I'll always take that character that I'm wearing, or the suit that I'm wearing, as part of that, especially like with Willow. I know what a troll is. You know, if you want him to be, luckily I got to play a little, he was a bit slow. I got to play Falcon, you know, and he was a bit slower than Saris, you know. So I know exactly what contributions he's making to that scene, you know. And as ugly as pretty and as ugly as he is, you know,
very hairy.
Yeah. In places. but the, you know, at least he got to play it with a little bit of humor in there, you know. And the same thing with Saris, you know, he was very sarcastic and things like that, so it takes a bit of the fear out of it, you know. And that's, you know, fairy tales, man. It's magical. It's magical.
But I feel fairy tales for children is something that should be imposed on kids, because that's what opens up a child's imagination.
Yes.
Especially at that young stage.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you have such a wide imagination, it'll broaden your horizon to anything, and it'll make you think that you can have the world at your hands. And I feel that's one of the greatest things that I've experienced in my childhood was getting to watch stuff like this, because it opened up my imagination. And I constantly, like, for instance, I would ride my bike sometimes. And back in the days, one of my favorite movies was Never Ending Story.
Yeah.
So I would feel sometimes if I was riding my bike, you know, I was on the horse and I was on a Treyu, and, you know, I was riding through, like, sometimes there would be like a whole bunch of trees and stuff. So I was thinking I was riding, you know, my magical bicycle through the woods. And it's like, you know, when you're that young, you know, your imagination is the best thing that keeps you still as a child. And I feel like that's what keeps us still as kids, as adults. You know, we still have that imagination. We still go and tap into that, you know, that kid-like mind of ours sometimes.
That's it.
And it just brings nothing but joy and you know, happiness to your soul.
That absolutely 100%. That imagination is the internal magic we all possess. You know, that's why I have a problem with AI. I call it artificial imagination. You know, and if people start moving into artificial imagination, the world's going to lose quite a bit, and they don't see it coming. So it's, you let it run its course, you know, and you hold on to what imagination you have, and whatever you can impart to children, you know. But that magic, you know, it's what happens when children are playing with their toys. When the children are playing with their toys, they're creating magic. It's their imagination creating this story or this reason or that, or whether it's cards, whether it's action figures, whether it's dolls, whether it's teddies, whether it's whatever it is. That whole magical form of imagination inspires, like you said, the storytelling. You know, what they'll even kind of reenact certain things they've seen in movies or stories that they know, you know, with some of these characters, you know, regardless of whether they look like the characters or not. You know, that is, I mean, that's what we grew up with. That's what Jim Henson was pushing out there, you know, and I don't think he did a bad job.
Yeah, he didn't do a bad job whatsoever. His legacy will live on forever. His legacy is reasons why. So I have a really good friend of mine. She actually lives in Orlando. She is probably the biggest, and I'll probably tag her in this segment, but she is one of the biggest Muppet fans you'll ever meet. She has a Instagram page. I'll send it to you. Just dedicated only to Muppets. And
fantastic.
You can see it in her face on how excited anytime, like, she went to go see Jim Henson's you know, like the walk where he has his hand, and you can see it in her face that she was trying so hard not to cry because it just brings utter joy to her. She has a whole room just dedicated to the Muppets.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'll send you her page. It's quite impressive to see such a big Muppet collector.
Oh, please do, and I will send her so much love. They did a concert over here a few years ago.
Oh,
the Muppets did their concert at the O2 Arena, and I have to tell you, there is nothing like hearing the Muppets sing live. Yeah, you saw the guys stood there holding up the Muppets, and on the screen you saw the Muppets, right? But when you're watching it, you're seeing the guys holding everything. And when Kermit sang the Rainbow Connection, you could have heard a pin drop, you know, and you looked around and there were grown adults tearing up as children, you know, because of how much the Muppets and that song in particular, and just the beauty and just the nature of everything that they've done, yeah, and contributed to our childhoods, yeah, has meant to them, you know, with high moral values. Yeah. Another thing that was amazing was Dr. Teeth and the Electric Orchestra. I think that's the name of the band.
Yes.
The friend might be able to correct us or whatever. They performed. Oh my goodness. They performed. Those bunch of hippies, those hippie awesome. You know, if I was a promoter, yeah, I would find a way to get that set to tour. Yeah, even if it was a summertime tour at Woodstock or something or whatever, man, they would tour because the music is legit. It's just the Muppets are performing it. It's absolutely incredible, absolutely amazing. But yeah,
I like that.
We love the Muppets. we
love the Muppets. You're gonna make me want to buy Muppet T-shirts now.
I'll tell you what, I had there's a well, the thing is, that's another thing about my job. I get to meet the world's greatest puppeteers.
Yeah, you do.
I have worked with Jim Henson, that have worked on the Muppets. The guy who was operating my face for Senator Chewant is a guy called Don. Don played the Ghost of Christmas Present and the Ghost of Christmas Past, the Santa, played the Santa in that, right? And he's just as jolly as that Santa in real life as he was in that show. You know, the most beautiful people. And one guy in particular, Andy Heath, he made me a Muppet. Yeah. And my Muppet looks very much like Prince. Right? I think I've named him Seven. I think his name is Seven, right? And I'm at some point I'm going to get somebody to 3D print a guitar for my Muppet, so that he can mime to some Prince tunes. But that's why am I telling you that's top secret? but that's one of my pet little projects I hope to get sorted one day, because I was hoping to
I know a 3D printer, so I know somebody who does 3D printing, so I can send you the info.
Oh, okay.
we can make your dream into a reality.
Absolutely. But see, these things, we don't want to let go of these things. These things mean so much to us, and I think that's the same thing with Star Wars. It means so much to so many people, that the love is always there, whether it's constructive criticism or not, it's always there. And that's part of that's part of the family, man. They're still part of the family, because they say why they like something and they say why they don't like something. Those that just say other things, you can tell what type of fans they are, or if they're fans at all. But when there's constructive criticism and things like that, it's kind of like, well, I like Pepsi. I told my friend Danny at Comics and Cosmetics this the other day. I said, I can't drink fizzy drinks because they hurt my mouth, right? But I like Pepsi more than I like Coca-Cola, especially when it's flat. Does that make me a bigot or racist?
I've actually tried Pepsi flat. It's actually not that bad.
Oh, so does that mean we're both bad?
I don't know. I also don't drink soda as much. Like, I'll crave it like once in a blue moon. But I think the last time I drank soda was like 5 months ago.
Yeah, I can't drink that stuff anymore. I can't drink
no.
anymore. But yeah, we love Star Wars. But I tell you this, there was this moment on what was it? It was on Solo. It was on Solo where I was playing Quay Tulsite, and that Pike, right? I was playing him, and we were filming the sequence where I think I'm about to capture Kira and her droid when I bring them into my office.
Yes.
And we close that door. And when we closed that door, Woody Harrelson, I just throw his name out, just Woody as well. Woody Harrelson and the stunt team went through their sequences. And it was so surreal to watch him twirling these guns and blasting these stuntmen over the table and stuff like that, that I forgot I was actually in the actual scene.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm behind the door and I'm watching through this little glass plate, and I'm as they just carry on, and I just got lost in that moment. And there was another moment which was absolutely incredible, and it was at the Sabak table when this was with Phil and Chris directing. They were basically saying to Alden, okay, so Six Eyes is going to be looking at your cards, he's going to be cheating or whatever, and you've just got to keep catching it. You're going to catch him, and Six Eyes, you're gonna react and look away or whatever. And literally, you've got 2 guys under the table operating Six Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Another 4. There were so many in the room, right around that table, as well as Donald Glover sat there. And within, was it 1 or 2 takes, I'm watching this thing live, And Alden looks at Six Eyes as he's cheating, and the eyes just go up and up as if, no, I wasn't looking. And it was magical. It was like a Jim Henson production,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you're thinking, well, that's not an easy job to do, you know, and you're moving six eyes at the same time or whatever, and you've got remote in, and you're timing something to make him look like he wasn't really cheating. And it was that, for me, is probably the best puppeteering moment I've seen I saw in that movie set. It was just absolutely amazing by these geniuses. That's what they are. They're like wizards from Harry Potter or something. They're just genius wizards. I
love Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
I swear, if I had a bigger home, I would have half Harry Potter, half Star Wars, but then I would need like 4 jobs to be able to do all that
stuff. Oh no, Harry's that's just incredible. You know, we'll go off topic just a little bit, but the whole Snape thing at the end is just like, oh.
I know. And because I'm such a big fan of Alan Rickman, because I love Die Hard, so it was just even more like gut wrenching, because I'm like, I've already seen him die in Die Hard. Don't do this to me again. And then now then his character dies, and then the real actor passes away, and it just makes it even worse, because you're just like, we'll never get him again. And then like you watch the anniversary documentary of Harry Potter on HBO, and when they're speaking in regards to him, it's like all the actors are having such a hard time talking about him, because he was such an influence as that character. He was that character.
But look at it this way. He didn't pass away after playing a villain in Die Hard. He passed away playing one of the most significant characters in the Harry Potter story, pretending to be a villain all the way through.
Who was the biggest cheerleader for the main character.
Yeah.
And his biggest protector, which we always thought it was we always thought it was somebody else, but it wasn't. We always thought it was Dumbledore, and it wasn't. It was always Snape, who was always protecting him because of the love that he had for his mother. Yeah.
You see the power of these fairy tales.
I know. And it brings us back to being kids.
Yeah. Every single time. You know, I just hope that fairy tales don't become real world issues and things like that. You know, it's not a fairy tale.
No, it's not.
It's got no magic. But you know.
Yeah. Well, I do have to ask the most important questions.
All right.
Are you going to be doing any cons soon? I know that we discussed that you're going to be trying to do more US cons, but I know you stated that you are going to be at, what is it, San Diego Comic-Con?
I'm going to be at San Diego Comic-Con with my boy Chris Bartlett. So come and check us out.
I'm so jealous. I wish I can go.
Are you not coming?
No, I have so many other conventions that are coming up. Like I have one this weekend on Saturday. It's here in Florida. They sent me press passes to come and like check it out. And then there's another Star Wars convention that they're having in, what is it, October?
Right.
And then I'm waiting for them to do more guest announcements, but so far I'm at like 98% that I am going to be attending. And this will be like my birthday gift to myself. Oh. But I am going to be going to San Francisco Comic-Con because they did announce that Richard Dreyfuss is going to be there. And I'm a huge Jaws fanatic. I love Jaws more than anything. Jaws is probably one of the main reasons why I do not go to the beach. Mentally, which is the oddest thing in the world. I am so terrified of sharks, but yet I find them to be the most magnificent creatures. I love watching Shark Week. I've watched every Jaws movie from beginning to end. You know, I know the word for word the song that they sing in Jaws 1 when it's the 3 of them on the ship getting drunk. And I've had 2 missed opportunities to meet Richard Dreyfuss, and the fact that he's coming back again to do something, I'm waiting as they get a little bit closer just to make sure he doesn't cancel, because then I have to go. I still have the original book cover that my mom gave me of Jaws, so I need to get that signed with my original VHS, and it's
Oh my goodness.
I'm hoping that the prices go a little bit down, but I may surprise my mother and not tell her, and I may bring her with me and just tell her like, hey, you're coming to convention with me, and that's it. But I'm not going to tell her who's there, and I want to take the picture with her with Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, that would be so amazing.
Oh, she'll poop herself.
Oh my goodness, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so that's like a big time like gift that I'm trying to save up to take my mom, because going to California is not that cheap.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, San Diego, I'm there. I think from the 26th to the 31st, there's a 501st bash that I'm going to be heading to, and Ubuntu Eve party bash that's happening around. I think it's on the last day as well.
Okay.
But while I'm there, I'm going to try and see if I can get on some more of these conventions in the US, and maybe take a trip down to Florida. You never know, and things like that.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of these conventions don't get to see many of us British performers and stuff like that.
No, we don't.
And also people like myself who love to talk your ears off about Star Wars any day of the week, you know. So there's that happening. But yeah, I think San Diego is the first of many, I hope. But it should be fun. I'm going to be looked after by Chris Bartlett and Kate and his friend Katie as well. So that should be good.
You're definitely gonna have fun with them, because Chris he's a riot. He's so
Oh, and I'm looking forward to seeing Misty. I met Misty last time she was over here.
Yeah.
I got to surprise her a little bit. But yeah, I just want to get over there and just see what it's like. But San Diego is like the big one. You know, when I was
it's one of the biggest cons in California.
Well, see, when I was a kid, I used to get all the comics. So I was always reading. But it started off with Superman, then it went with Batman, then it went with the Flash for a very brief moment, and then it stuck with Spider-Man. And then in the back, it would always talk about some conventions or something going on. And it was always a mythical place as a kid, thinking, there's a place where they just sell comics. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So to be able to come to San Diego as my first, I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'm really excited.
Don't go crazy and buy a whole bunch of comics.
I don't say that. I was, you know, I know I was already working out my budget.
Oh gosh. So I like to end my segment with, most of the people always like to end their segments with like throwing their plugs out and stuff, which we will do before we wrap up. But I always like to end the segment going, if there's any child out there or young aspiring actor or performer that wants to get into the business, I guess what motivational quote or, you know, what would you tell somebody if they wanted to get into the field that you're in right now?
Okay, I think what I would say would be for anybody trying to do anything really is, if that's your dream, there's nobody that can tell you different, you know. And if nobody's going to tell you different, only you can tell yourself the truth, which is that you're going to achieve it. Doesn't matter how long it's going to take, but you're going to do it. You don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to do it. You know, you have to have that belief. You have to have that self-awareness to know that anybody else you meet may lie to you and say, oh, blow smoke up your butt or whatever, and say, yeah, this, that, and whatever. But no, the only person who knows truly whether they're going to be able to do something or not is you, you know. And if it helps, I mean, what helped me is I had posters on my wall of Janet Jackson, you know, and then years later, I ended up touring with Janet Jackson. I had posters of Madonna on my wall. Then I met Madonna at Top of the Pops. I had posters of MC Hammer on my wall. Then I got to audition for MC Hammer. had posters of Prince on my wall, got to meet the MPG. You know,
Mhm.
I had posters of Spider-Man on my wall and got a signed autograph from Stan Lee. And the only poster that I hadn't taken down off my wall was a Star Wars poster. So surround yourself with the things that will inspire you and keep your dream alive. Because people will be flaky. They'll say, "Oh, we'll do this with you. We'll do this together." No, only you know what you can do, and you know that you can do that for yourself. It's up to them whether they're going to keep up with you, but it's you. Always, it's you, and you've got to believe in you 100%.
I
Otherwise,
agree.
you don't believe in you, it ain't gonna happen. You have to believe in you. How's that?
I like that. Well, where can people find you on social media?
Oh man, my Instagram is D_Tails official. My old page was digital_star or something like that, but that got hacked. So it's my official Instagram page is D_Tails official. I'm on Twitter. You can find me. I'm on Facebook. If you're looking for me on Facebook, you'll recognize my logo as being Daffy Duck. I've always been down with Daffy. Daffy's just on point. So yeah, come and give me a follow anywhere you can.
All right. Well, guys, I'm going to be putting all his information in the description. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of reels. So you're going to be seeing all these crazy stories that I'm going to be posting. But you guys definitely have to follow Details on Instagram. Bother him. Send him some Beastie Boy music. Send him some videos. Send him stuff about the Muppets. We literally broke down. We literally talked about every type of lore today. So anything you guys heard in this segment, send it to him. He definitely will respond. That's the good thing that I love about this man. He does respond. So if you want to actually talk to him, send him a message, but don't bother him while he's in San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh yeah,
He'll get back to you later. Well, D, I just want to say thank you so much for being on here. This, I have to say, and I hope the other people that I interview don't hear this and then be like, "Hey, how come you didn't say this?" I'll even say this like after we wrap up. This was probably one of the funnest interviews I've ever had.
Oh, bless you.
I really enjoyed this. I'll be honest with you. I felt like I was talking to an old friend that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, and I feel like when we meet in person, I think it's gonna be like that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Thank you so much.
This was amazing.
You know, reaching out. Yeah, I love talking Star Wars and love speaking to anybody who's a huge fan. But yeah, you've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna be wrapping up. And like I said, follow this man on all his socials. And probably, I think in the next week or so, we are going to be interviewing Dickie Beer. We're also going to have some other people on as well. I will be posting them on all socials. And I will be attending Florida SuperCon this weekend. So if you guys have any questions, I'm probably going to try to check out David Tennant since he is the voice of Huang. So if you guys have any questions, send them over. And like how I like to end this segment, may the force be with you guys. I'll see you guys soon. Yeah. Oh, you just did a Star Trek. I'm not editing that out, by the way. All right, guys. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.